This
Dwayne
conference will now be recorded.
Say it again.
Dwayne Neal, I'm a RADCON supervisor.
Paul Elbert, radar engineer.
Deborah Parcher, our RADCON supervisor.
Okay, great. Well, nice to meet all you folks, and thanks for taking the time, and sorry you're on such a small little screen. Gosh.
Hey, Jib, can we record this and maybe send it?
I am recording.
They can view. Oh, great. Yeah, we could send this later to you folks if you
Yeah, that would be
see
great.
it.
Yeah, I'm going to record
right.
it, and then we'll put it on our website. We have a YouTube channel. We'll put it on the YouTube channel, and then
There you go.
You can connect to it that way.
Now, I could get to a damn YouTube video.
Yeah,
I can't get to go to meeting.
Oh gosh. Well, sorry about that. Okay, well, we'll do the best we can. So I'm Jim Worowski, and of course, you know Ralph Serrati there. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a few PowerPoint slides, and then I'm going to walk through the application, and feel free to ask questions. My background is a master's in health physics, PhDs in radiation biology, and I spent 7 years at 2 different nuclear power plants back in the 80s. And then I was co-owner of MJW Corporation for 24 years.
Oh, MJW, there you go. We know that one.
I was co-owner of that. And when we got started with the NIOSH project, I'm the one that managed all the database and application development support for that project there. And then we split from, I split from MJW back in 2008, and Ralph and I formed S&W. And then in this past July, we sold S&W to Valsoft Corporation, a pretty good sized company based in Montreal. And so we can eventually retire someday. Of course, Ralph's half retired now anyway, but so I'm still running the S&W. We're actually a different company now, but we're still using the S&W Technologies name. So it really, it's still pretty much the same people and same products and everything. But we have a much larger corporation as our parent now, which is going to be good. It gives us more resources to draw on, so that's always a good thing. And so what I'm going to do here, like I said, go through a few PowerPoint slides and then show you the application, and feel free to ask questions as we go along.
Okay.
Let's see, get my screen to work. Here we go. Okay. I don't know if you can read all this, but I'll kind of read through some of the text on these little slides here that you're seeing. We have 4 major software products that we've developed over the years. We're going to spend today talking about our survey software, VSDS. We have a telemetry data management system, GEDS, which is being used by Tennessee Valley Authority at their 3 plants and the Duke plants. And you can see there's a list down towards the bottom of the slide there: Duke Energy, TVA, Ontario Power, Dominion, First Energy, and so on. So we've been around a long time, and the software has been around for well over 20 years. We update it every year with new features and functionality. It's being used at quite a number of DOE and DOE type facilities. The reason I added in the DOE type facilities is because we have a couple of fuel fabricators using it, Framatome in Washington State and GE in Wilmington, North Carolina. We've got some of the big DOE, most of the DOE sites such as Savannah River and Oak Ridge, Sandia, Los Alamos, Idaho National Laboratory, and a bunch of other places, in addition to the power plants. So there's lots of features and functionality in the application that makes it usable by those 2 different populations of users. But they all have the same need, which is to document radiation survey information, which is what we do. And then we have a network picture cataloging system we call SiteWise, and we have a safety observation system we call Guardian. So we're pretty busy with all those different applications and lots of customers around the country and the world. We even have FedEx Corporation using our safety observation software, so that's kind of cool. So we developed the VSDS to be a paperless system for documenting radiation survey information. And it can be used for a whole variety of different kinds of surveys: controlled area surveys, job coverage, routines, clearance of items, personal contamination events even. The whole process is electronic. So you use your computer to enter the survey, to review and approve it. And then once the approval process takes place, it can be automatically archived to your document archival system. We have all the data that you're recording, meaning all of the numerical readings for dose rate, smears, air samples, and the like, are all stored in a relational database. And that can be whatever relational database you're currently using for other things. So it could be, if you're using Oracle, we can just store it in Oracle. Or if you're using SQL Server, we can just use your SQL Server. You don't have to have a dedicated database just for VSDS. So if you're using like Sentinel or, other
We do use Sentinel.
products. Do you use Sentinel?
We do use Sentinel.
Yeah, there you go. So you already have a database engine that's supporting your Sentinel system. So basically what you can do is just have your IT folks create a database for VSDS in that Sentinel in the same instance that you're using for Sentinel. So you don't have to have a lot of dedicated items for VSDS. It has so we're storing all that data in the database. So that gives us the ability to provide comprehensive search and retrieval of that information that's been recorded over time. So you can go back and easily search for any kind of a survey. I'll show you a few examples as we go along here. We can also trend the survey data over time. So any of your smear data, wipe, air sample, dose rate information can be trended over time. So you can see it, what it's doing. And we have a scheduling module that allows you to schedule routine surveys on whatever recurrence interval you need. So it could be daily, weekly, monthly, it doesn't matter. And so that gives you very nice capability there as well. We can also interface with data logging survey meters if you're using any of those, or other types of counting instruments like liquid scintillation counters and Tenelec planchette counters, that sort of thing, smear counters. Anything that produces a data file with the results of the samples that were counted, we can import that data file into VSDS, and then the user can simply drag and drop the data and plop it on the survey map. So it helps minimize transcription errors, and they don't have to type so much, and it works well for everything. We also have an iPad module. So the main application for VSDS is a Windows application. So for those of you that use iPads or your iPhone 8 that you have there, which I have the same one, you can't run Windows applications on an iPad or the iOS operating system. So we developed a dedicated iOS app for the iOS platform, and the app is free. The services to support the app, there's a fee for that, but the app itself, you can just download it from the Apple App Store. So the iPad module, the iPad app, allows you to go out in the field and record measurements right on the tablet, and it works online or offline. So if you're in an area where there's no Wi-Fi or anything, you can still record your survey information right on the tablet. And then when you come back to an area where there's network, you can simply upload the surveys back to the server, and then you can continue using them in through the Windows application. Now, if you use Windows tablets, because some customers use iPads and other customers use Windows tablets.
We would use an iPad.
You'd use a which?
We would use an iPad if we had one.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. If you use Windows tablets, you can also use this application on a Windows tablet. So because it is a Windows program. We do have web interfaces as well, and I have a little slide presentation which I'll flip through later to show you that we have two different web interfaces, which allows mainly for the general plant staff to easily access the surveys that you complete, so that they can do their own self-briefing or be aware of the radiological conditions at the facility. And you have control over which of those surveys are made available to the web viewer. So it's very, very straightforward. It's nice how that works. Now we also have something we call our hazard display module, which can be used on large touchscreen monitors. And what this does is it combines data from the surveys. It'll display the maps from the VSDS program and overlay summary data for dose rates and smear data and such right on the map. But it can also overlay real-time data from area monitors and continuous air monitors and other kinds of devices like that you might have out in the field. So we have some customers using that application, and they have a number of large monitors scattered around their facility, and those monitors would be displaying the data all the time, and people walk by and they can see what the current radiological conditions are because it automatically updates itself. So they are always seeing the current radiological conditions. So that's another option that's available.
Do they work with smart cans?
So let's talk a little bit about the survey process. We have five different formats of surveys that are built into the system, and they can be turned on and off depending upon what you want to use or not want to use. We have a standard map survey, which uses a floor plan diagram or some other backdrop that you place symbols on top of, and then you put the data in the symbols. Then we have, pardon me, then we have an itemized survey, which is kind of like a spreadsheet where you can create tabs, similar to creating tabs on a spreadsheet, and there's a grid, and the tabs allow you to create, the tab feature allows you to create different tabs for different types of radiological measurements. So for example, at a place like Savannah River, I think they've got tabs for different radionuclides that they measure because they use different instrumentation for different types of radionuclides. So they have different tabs for different radionuclides. And then the rows on the grid are the different items that get surveyed or an area that might get surveyed. And then you just fill in the appropriate columns on that particular page of the grid, if you will. So it's very flexible, and you can make templates out of it with different collections of tabs for different types of surveys that you might need to do. And I think the Savannah River, they probably do half of their surveys as itemized surveys and the other half is map surveys. It just works out very well to have that combination. We also have a one-liner survey, which is kind of like an electronic logbook for, if a technician goes out and they check an area and they're verifying the conditions and they come back and they just make a log entry. And they don't have to do a complete survey for that sort of thing. We have an equipment material release survey, which, as it indicates, is like a clearance sheet. Again, sort of a grid layout where you just list the items that are being released and the results of your measurements, radiological measurements on those items. And then the last one is a personal contamination event, which kind of works like a map survey where you have sort of a diagram of a person. And then if the person has contamination on them, you can put little symbols on top of that person diagram to indicate where on their body they're contaminated. And you can indicate the initial measurements of the contamination and then document the decontamination methods used and the as found results or as left results once they finish doing the decontamination process. Data entry, desktop, PC, laptop, or tablet, or iPad. The electronic review and the review and approval process is all electronic, so you don't have to print anything. Technicians document the surveys and they've set it ready for review. We have either a 1 or 2 step approval process that's configurable depending upon your needs. Some of our customers just do 1 step, which means technician sets it ready for review and the reviewer reviews it and approves it. Or if they use a 2-step, the technician sets it ready for review, then an intermediate reviewer, sometimes like a shift technician or something, would review it, and then when they're finished, they would mark it ready for approval, and then the final approver person would then review it and do the actual approval step. So that's configurable. And we have what we call electronic signature, which is really electronic identity verification. It can be configured at any combination of those steps. So you could have it configured so that when the technician is ready to set the survey ready for review, they have to enter their network credentials to prove that who is currently logged into the computer, and the computer then determines that that's the identity of the person that's performing that step and records it in the survey, and it goes into a transaction log, and then it moves the survey on to the next stage in the process there. So once the survey gets approved, we lock it electronically so that you can't make any more changes to it. That that can be reversed by an administrator if need be, because every once in a while somebody forgets to put something in and nobody caught it, and now you need to go back and fix it. So an administrator can unapprove the survey, and then it can be fixed and go back through the review and approval cycle, and we track all of that in a transaction log in the database, so we know when it got unapproved and who reapproved it and that sort of thing, and date timestamps and all that good stuff. So that's all tracked. And then we generate a PDF file after the survey gets approved, and that can be sent off to document archives. And then that survey, if you so choose, you can flag it to be made available to the VSDS web viewer, as well as that hazard display system that I talked about. So you have kind of control. Some kinds of surveys, like certain specific job coverage surveys, that maybe you don't want the general plant staff to be able to see because they won't really understand the context. But a routine weekly survey of an area, you might want to certainly post that in the web viewer so that everybody can take a look at it. So you have that capability. It's very simple, just a little checkbox that you check to determine whether it should go there or not. Okay, so the map survey is what we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about here. And it uses some sort of an image as a backdrop for the survey. That could be a floor plan diagram, a map of the area, a 3D graphic, photographs, anything that you deem as appropriate there, basically. And any particular survey could have multiple of those images. So if you do a routine search.
What format do those images have to be in?
It's several different formats. We prefer what's called an enhanced metafile, a vector file format, enhanced metafile or Windows metafile format for the line drawings, because they scale nicely that way. But it'll work with bitmaps, JPEG, photographs, and several other standard image file formats.
Okay.
It won't work directly with like AutoCAD files, for example, because that's a proprietary format that you have to have special capabilities in order to use it. But any of those systems, like an AutoCAD system or a CorelDRAW, for example, you can export those drawings to an EMF file, and then we can use that EMF file directly in VSDS. So that's a very simple process to do. We also have a version control capability with the map. Basically, what you do is you create the maps and you catalog them in the system, so it's very easy for the users to select the one they want to work with. And then we have a version control capability on that cataloging, so that if things change over time and you make a new version of the map, you can put the new version in place and make it the active one, and then the rest of the other versions are inactive. So they're still available for historical review, but anytime somebody goes to create a new survey, they're going to get the current version of the map, so they won't accidentally use the wrong version of the map to make a survey, that kind of thing. Then we have a variety of symbols that you overlay on the top of the image and put your information in, and then there's other panels where you collect the who, what, where, when, and so on, the instruments used and all the rest of it. So let me see here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to the application and kind of walk through it because it'll be a little more interesting if I do it that way. So I can bear with me 1 second.
Please don't make it any smaller than it is.
Oh gosh, you want me to change my resolution a little bit more to make it a little bit bigger?
Well, just make it as big as you can.
All right, hang on 1 second here. Let's see if I can do that. Are you able to see anything on there?
Oh, we can see something. We don't know what it is, but we can see something.
All right, let's see if that
There you
might
go.
look a little bit better. A
What are we
little bit
looking-
better?
Yeah, what are we looking at there?
Okay, this is the home page for VSDS. So when you log in, we know who you are based on your login. And then the page is broken up into a few sections. On the left is a section that contains the different types of surveys that I talked about, the standard map survey, the itemized survey, one-liner, equipment material release. And then underneath that, you see a series of folders. And each of those folders is labeled with the different stage within that group that the survey can go through. So for example, the in-process stage is the stage where the technician is filling out the survey. And then when they're done with it, they mark it ready for review, for example. So if I click on the ready for review folder, the middle of the screen displays all the surveys that are in that ready for review state. And then if I had the two-step review process enabled, typically there would be some surveys that are probably ready for approval. And then once the surveys get approved, they go into the approved folder. So this screen is designed to provide instant access to anything the technician or supervisor or reviewer needs to have access to. They don't have to search for anything. They don't have to do any kind of menus or anything to find what they need to work with. So for example, if I'm a technician and I'm working on my surveys, then all I have to do is select in process, and it will show me all the surveys that I'm working on that are in process. Now, there's some filtering I can do, so I can switch this to just my surveys, and then this would be all of my surveys. But let's say several of us work together and you need to be able to see other people's surveys that are being worked on. You can switch this to all the surveys and it will show you the surveys that everybody else is working on as well. And there are some constraints in the program where you can set it up so that I can't work on your survey. I can look at it, but I can't do anything to it. I can't edit it, that kind of thing. Now for the reviewers, that's very handy because all they have to do is click on this ready for review folder, and this shows them all the surveys in the entire system that are waiting to be reviewed. They don't have to filter anything. They're all right here. Now, if you have the system set up so that you designate the supervisor for each user, then if I'm logged in and I'm a supervisor, I can select my technician's surveys, and then we'll filter to just the surveys that my technicians have marked ready for review. So I don't have to look at everybody else's surveys, if you follow me. So some of our customers do that. So I don't have to go anywhere else. They're right here. So I have to just double click on one, open it up, review it, and then approve it. And as soon as I approve it, it disappears from this folder and it goes into that approval folder. So once this folder is empty, all the surveys are approved. You know that there's none that are waiting to be approved. So you don't have to go searching around for anything. So try to make it as simple and easy as possible. And this screen updates itself automatically about once a minute. So you don't have to even hit the refresh button and automatically update when it needs to.
Oh yeah, okay.
Now down at the bottom is a list of those schedules that I talked about. So you can create schedules and you can assign them to people. And then if somebody created a schedule for a survey and assigned it to me, it'll show up in my scheduled items at the bottom of the screen here. So again, I don't have to go looking for what am I supposed to be doing this week, because it's all going to be right here.
So I take it that's the routine surveys that the plant has.
Usually, yeah, usually. Yep.
Okay. Now, do you have to assign it to somebody, or can you just list them out there as ones that need to be done and people can go do them?
That's a good question. You can do both, actually. You can assign it. You can make a what we call a team, and that team can be everybody, right? So then you create a schedule and you just assign it to the team, and then it appears on everybody's schedule.
Okay, good. Okay.
The first one to grab it owns it,
Yeah.
and then everybody else will see that somebody else already is working on it. So you see a couple of these are in process here. That means they're already being worked on by somebody else. So yeah. But sometimes you want to assign a schedule to just one particular person or a couple of people, and you can do that too. So very flexible. Okay, so to create a survey, there's, excuse me, the standard web survey. There's three ways to do it. One is from scratch, where you tell the system you want to create a new survey, and you pick the first map and you put all the symbols on it and fill all the data in. And then set it ready for review. You have to do that at the beginning until you build up some surveys in here. The second method is to create a survey based on a template. Now, for those routine surveys that you do, you may want, for each room, over time you figured out where you really want various samples to be taken, measurements, dose rate measurements and the like. So what you can do is you can create a template for a particular routine survey that has one or more maps in it. And then on each of those maps, you have placeholders for where you want the various measurements to be taken. And you save that as a template. Now, when the technician goes to do that survey, they create their survey based on that template, and it brings in the maps and puts the symbols on the map, and basically they're ready to go. And so now all they have to do is fill the data in, the symbols and the other information, and saves a lot of time. Then the third way is to open up a previous survey that was done for that location or that type of, that routine, for example, pull up the last one that was done and make a copy of it. And then once they make a copy of it, they can change anything they need to. They can add more points, move them around, delete them, and so on. So, and that's optional. You can turn that off. We have a couple of customers that don't like that because they don't want people pencil whipping and just making copies of previous surveys. But so there's a configuration option there where you can turn that off if you want to. But again, it does save a lot of time.
It says yes, we turn it off.
So totally up to you. And there's one additional folder here called the Help Resolution folder. So if the reviewer finds that there's some issues with the survey that need to be corrected, they can mark the survey hold for resolution, and they can, there's a little chat window that they can put comments in to communicate to the technician what needs to be fixed, and then they mark it hold for resolution, and it goes into this folder. And it can also send emails to the technician to indicate, oh, your survey 15 was marked held for resolution, and so on. So we got those capabilities. But again, if I'm a technician and I notice that I got an email saying that there was a survey held for resolution, all I have to do is log in to VSDS, and it's right here. I don't have to go search for it. So it makes it easy.
So it spits an email out, you said?
Yeah, it will. Yeah. Okay, so let me. I'm going to open up one that I already have a lot of information on. Okay, well, that's interesting. Maybe I opened up the wrong one. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? Let me close this because I have one that has more information on it to be more interesting. So, let me try.
Postings and grant.
I got too many surveys in here. But hopefully this one is a decent. Yeah, here we go. This got a lot of stuff on it. Maybe a little busy, but. Okay, so this is what we call the workspace. And it's divided into 3 areas. One is the area of the map you see here. And to the right of it, you have some panels that contain lots of fields that you can fill in. And then up at the top, there's a toolbar that contains various symbols that you can work with. And I'll kind of walk through each of these sections here so you kind of get a good understanding of how it all works. So in terms of the map panel here, if you notice, if you can see on your little iPhone there, there's little tabs across the top of this viewing area. And these tabs are the different maps that I have recorded in my survey. So you can see I've got all different kinds of formats here, line drawings and
A lot of stuff in there.
all kinds of photographs and so on.
So now, so if you pick one of those tiles, that becomes associated with that survey number, but you can use more
all
than
of these. Yeah, all of these maps are under that same survey number.
So you could use 1 or 2, or if you wanted to, or you have to pick one.
No, you can use them all.
You can use all of them.
You're all of them.
You go grab what you need for.
Yeah.
So for
The tabs won't
each,
be there unless you've selected them.
yeah, for each survey that you do, you can have 1 or more maps depending upon the need. So if you do a routine survey that covers 5 rooms, you can put all 5 maps in here for that one survey, because all this general information that you're collecting is the same. It covers all 5 of those rooms, right? So you put the general information in once, and then you have the detailed information for each map in here on these panels. So it just makes it nice and easy. So it doesn't really matter. And if you want to find all the surveys that were done for a particular map, the search tool allows you to do that. And it doesn't matter whether that map is map number 1 or map number 3 or map number 10. for any particular survey, it'll still find that survey that has that map in it. Does that make sense? So it's very easy to work with that way. Now, when you catalog the maps, we basically build a little tree structure, and this tree depends on how the maps are organized at your facility. So a lot of times what our customers do is they'll have the first level on the map be a building, like the Ox building or whatever. And then underneath that, they'll do elevations within the building. And then when the user picks an elevation, the maps will be listed. So there's lots of flexibility here in terms of how you want to organize this tree. But basically, you can organize it in a fashion that makes sense for your facility. Just makes it very easy for the users to find the image they want to work with. Yeah. And then you just select the one you want and click OK, and it adds it into your panel here. You can delete the map, you can replace it if you pick the wrong one, and so on. You can even zoom in and out on the map here. Sometimes you want to zoom in and put some data and then zoom back out again. It will, if you zoom in, it's going to limit how small you can make the symbols so that when you zoom back out again, you can still see them. It won't let you make them so small you can't see them once you zoom back out again. But sometimes that's useful if you have a fairly large map and you want to zoom in a little bit to be able to position the symbols and then zoom back out again. It's handy. And that's you can configure that for each map. So you could zoom in, whatever map you're currently viewing is what you would zoom in and out on. Okay, I'm going to come back in a little bit and talk about the symbols. So next, I just want to go over here and talk about this panel on the right-hand side, which has a bunch of tabs on it. The first tab is what we call the general information tab, which has the survey number that's automatically generated to be unique, and a title that you can give, and the date and time when you did the survey, and who the lead surveyor is in this case. Now, we support multiple surveyors on a particular survey. As you can see, if you look at the bottom of the panel here, you can see Jeff Gadati is an additional surveyor that worked with me to do this survey. So you can enable or disable this function, and you can have as many additional surveyors as you want on the survey. And in fact, if you probably have a hard time seeing it, but there's a little checkbox column over here to the right. It says acknowledged. What that's there for is you can set it up in the configuration that you can require each of these additional surveyors to log into VSDS, open this survey, review it, and then acknowledge that they think it's okay before the system will let the technician set the survey ready for review.
So you don't get your name on a bunch of surveys that you never saw.
Exactly. So so there's that. And then there's other fields here. There's some of these are configurable. We have lots of drop downs in the system, and every drop down is configurable in that configuration utility. I've talked about that a couple of times. It's a whole application that we include with the program that has literally hundreds of configuration items that you can work with, and we help you set that up, and that allows you to configure lots of aspects of the application here. One of them is the list of different types of radiation surveys that you do. So this allows you to easily later on search and filter on, I want to pull back all the weekly surveys that were done by Jim Warowski, in October, that kind of thing. So we try to standardize using lots of drop-down lists because it just makes it easy to standardize things and minimizes typing errors. Then you can also see there's a published that drill down web viewer. Remember I talked about that? All you'd have to do is click this, check it, and then it would make this survey available to the drill down web viewer once it gets approved. So it's simple as that, pretty easy.
Johnny Hall.
Now the next page over is the instruments that you used on the survey.
Oh, there you go.
And you indicated that you had Sentinel. Are you using Sentinel for your instrument inventory?
No.
Yes, we're working on it.
We're just played with it. We have our legacy system has a pretty nice system built into it, so we just stayed with that for the time being.
Oh, for instruments?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
But that will be abandoned. So.
Okay. Well, either way, there's a button down here that says Add from Instrument List. And when I click this button, we can link VSDS to either your legacy system or Sentinel. So that when you click that button, this is a list of the currently calibrated in-service instruments that are in your instrument inventory database.
So this software does not do that. We would have to link to another database.
We do have an instrument inventory function within the software itself, but it typically doesn't have as many parameters associated with each instrument as most of the other commercially available instrument inventory systems do, like Sentinel and probably the one you're using. So ours is kind of minimal because most of our customers already are using some other system to track their instrument calibration, maintenance records, and all that stuff. So we figure, why duplicate the effort? We just link to it and we're good to go. Does that kind of answer your question?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So talk about how our current system works with the response check in the morning.
Yep.
Okay,
Our current system is a couple of access databases that tie together. One of them manages our instrument inventory and our requirements, like what you have, and the other is the survey database. But they like I said, they're webbed together really well, and so we run reports that tells us when instruments are coming due for Cal. We also use that application to log our daily source checks. And when we do that, that's the only way a survey instrument becomes available for selection in the survey database. So if it's not source checked, it doesn't show up as an available instrument. So that's one of our fail safes to make sure that we're not using unchecked instruments.
Right. Yeah, we can do that. That's just all we have to do there is we create a view in your instrument database, and in that view, we just have the appropriate rules in there that indicate that it won't be retrieved by the view unless that source check flag is set to true for that date, that kind of thing. They're doing the same thing that your survey program does right now. We can do that same thing. VSDS hitting that database would only retrieve those instruments that have been daily source checked already. So our customers do that already. So that shouldn't be a problem. That's good though. Yeah. So do you track efficiency factors in your current database?
The efficiencies for the instruments? Yes, we do.
Okay. Good, because we can do that here too, and we can utilize the efficiencies to do calculations that convert, if you choose, to do calculations that convert from CPM to DPM, for example. I'll show you. I don't know if you do that normally or not, but we can do that here. So
what about MDCs and MDAs?
Yeah, actually, we're working on that right now, and we're going to have that in another month or so. Now we're doing the MDA. We have the MDA calculation formulas that we're putting in right now, actually. So we'll have the MDAs, shortly.
Core likes that stuff. Okay, good.
Okay, good. So that's the instrument. So you can have as many instruments on your survey as you want. Then we have a page we call attachments and comments. And with this page, it allows you to attach PDF files to your survey. We do require you to make the file a PDF before you attach it, because as I mentioned, when the survey gets approved, we generate a PDF of the entire survey. And what we do is we merge in any attachments into that PDF. So you end up with one PDF that has all the survey data plus anything you've attached to the survey.
Well, I just signed it. The source check for the year. The page got up for the whole year. She just gives me the 10 cover sheets.
And we also have, there's 3 places where you can put comments in. We have an extended comments field that you see here, which is unlimited text. You can put as much description as you like for the survey. And then there are comments that you can put in for just each individual map that might be relevant. And then for each symbol that you put on the map, you can put comments in for each of those symbols as well, which we'll talk about in a minute here. So
can you set up canned comments?
Canned comments.
Yeah, we have certain comments that we currently use where the RCTs have to put the same comment on over and over and over again from survey to survey. So we've got shortcut keys that they just hit a Control F5 and it pops that comment onto their survey.
Yeah, the easiest way to do that in our system is just put it in the templates that we talked about. When you create the template, you can put those standard comments in, and then they would come right across when you create the survey from the template. Okay, so let's take a look at the map itself and the different symbols that we have on the map. So we have a toolbar up here at the top with 4 pages on it with various symbols. We have each of these symbols looks like a little button when you put your cursor over it. And the way it works is you click the symbol you want, and then when you bring the cursor over the map, the cursor changes to look like the symbol that you're interested in working with. And what that allows you to do is easily drop symbols on the map. So I can drop as many symbols as I'd like very quickly, and then I can just drag them around the map, and I can resize them with the sizing handle. And each one of these symbols has a right-click menu, which allows you to perform various functions.
We'll see.
Now, each of the symbols contains various radiological measurement data, which is, again, configurable. So I have my dose rate measurements. These little blue boxes here are dose rate symbols. And I have them set up so that they can hold up to 3 readings. And I have mine set to be contact 30 centimeter general area. But you can also set each one of those rows up to be something else. So you can have a whole bunch of choices in here. So if you're like doing a shipping survey, you can have a 1 meter and 2 meter readings. Or if you wanted to make, for example, a gradient survey across a person, I don't know if that's relevant for you or not, but some of our customers have set the top line to have I don't think I have it in this example here. The top reading could be the person's head dose rate, and the middle could be the torso, and then the bottom reading could be the lower extremities, for example. And then you'd look at these 3 values would give you a little gradient across from the head to the lower extremities for that person, for example. So those different choices. And then we have data column where you put a numeric value, and then the radiological units, and these are the default, but they can have a variety of choices. So basically you can have whatever choices you need for each of the radiological units. And what happens is if you choose something other than the default that is in there, it will put the units out on the screen. So you notice this one here is a 1 meter reading of 2 microsieverts per hour. It put the microsieverts per hour on the screen because it's not milliramp per hour, which was the default. So these other ones don't have units showing because they're using the default of milliramp per hour. And there's a disclaimer in the survey report and so on that indicates all dose rates in milliramp per hour unless otherwise noted, for example. So, now, if we change this value and then I update the symbol, a little notification pops up. And we have a whole comprehensive system for notifying the user based on the value that they entered. So in this case, I put 6 millirem for my 30 centimeter reading. And so it's popping up a reminder that the area must be posted a radiation area. So and those notifications
For Leanna.
can apply on every different reading on every different type of symbol. So they're all customizable, so you can set them up however you need to. Now, for each one of these symbols, we also have what we call a position field, which is there to help you basically document the Z element of the X, Y, and Z coordinates of a particular point. So if you're using a floor plan diagram, for example, this one here, and you put a symbol on it, like this dose rate symbol here, I know my X and Y, but I can't tell the Z by looking at it. So here on the position, I can say, well, it was 6 inches above the floor, or it was in the overhead, that kind of thing. So that's just there to help make it more comprehensive. And then each of these symbols has a little note field, so you can put notes in for any one of these symbols that you need to. So you got lots of places to do that. Now, the dose rate symbol has some other options here too, where you can pick different radiation types, beta, beta, gamma, or neutron in addition to the gamma. And you notice here on this one, we've got the gamma and the beta component. So we've got a closed window and open window readings that we have in here. And we also have a multiplication factor that you can apply to correct for the beta component. So we'll give you the gamma component and then the beta corrected component. So here I've got 100 gamma, 250 beta for my dose rate reading for that location. Now, just a few of the other symbols, and we'll go through every one here. But for example, the smears, they can be configured. Again, there's up to 3 readings. You don't have to use all 3 if you don't want to, but you can configure them however you'd like. And they can have their own units. And I talked about the calculation over here. So if I pick a count rate instrument, it's going to apply the efficiency factor. If I go back up here again, and you scroll across, you'll see the beta gamma efficiency factor was 10%. So it's applying the efficiency factor of 10% against the 300. Now, if I go to the background and I put 10 in for my background, it'll subtract the background from the 300 first, then apply the 10% efficiency factor to calculate my DPM. So the calculation function can be turned on and off. We have some customers where the technicians just enter DPM per square centimeters directly, and others where they want to put in the CPM and have it apply the correction factor to convert to DPM.
How about air samples? Could you spend a little time on air samples?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute, but thanks. We also do alpha ratio and alpha activity levels. There's a whole page in the configuration utility for configuring all of that if you need to use that as well. Now for air samples, if we click over here, air samples can be configured for up to 4 different readings, and what most of our customers do is they just record the final DAC value or microarrays per cc or whatever they typically use, because most of our customers already have some sort of an air sample calculation process that they use, whether it's spreadsheets or it's an application that they've written, or it's the counter that they use. It automatically gives them the final results, so they don't need to repeat it here. And then you can take the output from any of that and just make a PDF out of it and attach the PDF to the survey. Now you've got the data that backs up the final result that's captured in this particular symbol.
Cover sheet. You need to create.
We do have a details page here, which does allow you to, and you can turn this on and off if you want, but it does allow you to provide some additional details about the air sample. So, you know, the type it is, and all this is configurable. If it has a barcode and the sample media and all that stuff, start and end flow rates. You can even use this page to indicate multiple run times, start and end run times, and it'll calculate the total time. And then if you put in the average flow, the start and end flow rates, it'll calculate the average flow rate, and then it'll calculate the total volume and such for you. And then if you want to have the screening page, you can do that, and then you can set this up for whatever screening you need. And then if you finally, if you wanted to capture your isotopic results, you could use the nuclide page to capture the isotopic result. But we don't currently do any of the conversions from your raw data to DAC because our customers are just, everybody's different. So
yeah, yep.
That makes sense. So
yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so these other symbols, most of these other symbols just capture similar kind of information. Now we do have a posting symbol here, so you can use it to put your postings to represent what's in the field, and you can color code these as well. So this basically represents what's in your placard, but some of our customers use different colored inserts for the placard, so you can adjust the coloring if you'd like here for that. Here are some text boxes that lots of options here for changing the background color and the text color and justifications and so on. And then So that's on the annotation object page. The symbols page has a variety of different drawing symbols, arrows, lines, ellipses, polylines, and polygons. Here's an example of a polygon. And with a polygon, you can make any shape you'd like. If you want to add another point here, you can add a point, and then you can change its shape. And then if you use your right-click menu, you can change the fill color. So I could change this to be aqua, and then I can change my transparency as well. So I can make it be opaque if I want, or mostly or all transparent, that sort of thing. So it makes it handy for describing a contaminated area within a non-contaminated area, for example. And then we've got this user-defined symbol page where you can create your own little symbols or just little bitmaps and drop them on the map. So here you see a couple of bags to indicate that I found some bags around this pole. So it makes it easy. The whole idea there is to try to make it simple for the technician. So anything they encounter out in the field on a day-to-day basis, you make a little symbol for those, and then they can just drag and drop them on the map and they're done. They don't have to spend a lot of time drawing things. Now this guy is a picture that's overlaid on top of that map. And that's used, you get there by using the camera. You take the camera and you drop it on your map, and it brings up a dialog box where you can search to find some picture that you want here. So I copy this thing here, I don't know what it is. And then here, it just made that picture, and then you can put it wherever you want and you resize it, and then you can put symbols on top of the picture. Like you see, I have a couple of smears on top of this photograph here. This little blob you see is a picture from one of those gamma imaging cameras.
Oh, okay.
One of the vendors gave it to me, and I put it on top of my picture here just to kind of simulate. Yeah. So if you have one of those devices. So that's the picture. And pretty much all the symbols. Now these symbols here are from, at the beginning I talked about our telemetry software, GEDS telemetry software. And it pulls in data from area monitors, continuous air monitors, and so on. And we can link that data to a map. And then if you come up here and click the remote monitoring and activate it, these symbols will show up and they'll update in real time.
Oh, wow.
So somebody could be viewing this map and click that link for remote monitor, and the data would update in real time. This is the same sort of thing that happens in our hazard display module. So what the hazard display module does is it allows you to display this map, and it would display summary information from the smears, wipes, air samples, and dose rates, and would also display the overlay data from the area monitors and cams that you have out in the plant. So kind of marries everything together. Excuse me. Okay, so I'll turn that off. Now, if I save this survey when those symbols were active, what it does is it takes a snapshot and adds the snapshot right to the survey. So I did that here a little while ago, and it took a snapshot of this particular area monitor, number 1001, and added it to my survey. So now your survey contains the manually collected data that the users picked made when they were out in the field, plus snapshots of the area monitor. And then we have this radiological summary page over here, which kind of summarizes the data for this particular map. So with a max contact dose rate with 100 milligram and various other things. So, so that covers the survey itself. Now let's take a quick look at the action step. Question?
Nope. Keep going. You're working.
Okay, good. So earlier when I was looking at the home page, right, I showed you those different folders, ready for review, help for resolution, and so on. So typically the way you set it up is that the users only see the items on this menu that are relevant for them. So if I'm a technician and I'm putting a survey in, the thing that I need to see is submitted ready for review, basically. So that's what I'll see. And I just click on it. And if you have the electronic signature enabled, it'll pop up a box that asks you to put in your username and password. If you are a reviewer and you find that there's a problem with the survey, you can mark it hold for resolution, and it will bring up this box that has that little sort of a chat window where the supervisor or the reviewer can put comments in that the technician can read and then correct the problems. Now, these comments are kind of private. They don't go into the final survey. So they're in the database, but they don't go into the survey because once the problems are resolved, the survey is fine and off it goes and gets approved. So that's kind of a little area where they can communicate. Now, we also have a QA check. And typically you would set this so that it would run as soon as the technician tries to set the survey ready for review, the QA check would run and catch all the little mistakes they made so that the reviewer doesn't have to worry about this stuff, like symbols that don't have any data and other things. As you can see, there's an instrument probe missing for one of my measurements and the like. So typically you would set the system up so that you can't go to the ready for review step until the QA check passes. And then once the reviewer comes in and they review everything, they would just click approve survey, and it would do several things. One, it's going to lock the survey, it's going to generate the PDF, and it'll close the survey and take them right back to the home page. And they were probably in the ready for review folder to start with, takes them back to the ready for review folder, and the survey they just approved is automatically moved to the approval folder, so they won't see it there anymore. So now they just work their way through, and once all the surveys are approved, the ready for review folder will be empty, and they know they don't have it. There's nothing else that needs to be approved, so they don't have to go look anywhere, search anywhere to find what needs to be done. So try to make this simple and easy as possible. I talked about trending, so let's take a look at that. So I mentioned that we have all that survey data in the database for every measurement point that's made on against any map on any survey and so on. So I'm looking at this backwash tank room, and you can see that you probably can't read it there, but there's this graph is going to look at the trend of data for this backwash tank room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to trend contact dose rate data over time for this room. And you see the graph there with the blue and the red lines on it. The blue line is an average of all the contact dose rate measurements taken anywhere in the room. And the red line is the maximum dose rate, contact dose rate measurement point anywhere in the room. And it's trended over time. Each data point on the graph is a different survey. In fact, there's a little box down at the bottom where if I'm paging along on the graph, you can see the survey that's selected in that drop down list changes to indicate the survey that produced that data. And if I wanted to go to that survey, there's a little button next to that pop-up list there that says go to survey. And if I click it, it'll open that survey up in the background and I can review it in more detail.
Pretty cool.
So that's contact. Now I could search any of those different, remember I had all those different dose rate measurement types like contact and 1 meter and general area, neutron skin, and so on and so forth. So if I pick general area now, it just re-queried the database and returned all of the general area data for that map over time, again, producing the average in blue and the max in red for the entire room. Now, I can trend for a particular part of the room, and not just the whole room. And to do that, there's a little checkbox at the bottom of this panel. When I check it, it makes a little viewport here that I can adjust the size of. And then as I drag it around the map, every time I release the button, it goes and finds all the data points that fall inside that rectangle and graphs them on the graph. So now if I'm looking at this flange on the side of the tank here, these are general area data points, but I could switch over to my contact again real quick. And that's what contact dose rates have been doing over time on that flange, for example. Or you can come down to the bottom, look underneath the tank and see what contact dose rate points measurements are doing under the tank over time. So that's the power of being able to look at that data that's in your database. Now let's go to let's search for a survey. So here I'm going to go to my open survey. And what this screen does is this is our search tool, comprehensive search tool for finding anything in the database that I'm interested in. So the first example I'm going to give is, I'm going to clear this out first here. There's a variety of filter panels here that you can do initial filtering just to kind of limit the surveys that you're searching. But the real power is right here in the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a criteria. So right now you already have survey numbers, so you can search on whatever survey number you want or a date range. Then I'm going to add a new criteria to my search. And the criteria I'm going to pick, when I click this drop down, it gives me this tree structure here with all the different data elements that are in a survey. And what I want to do is I want to find all of the surveys that were done with a particular survey meter, because that survey meter we discovered had a calibration problem. So I need to find all the surveys that were done with that survey meter. So all I have to do is come down here to where it says survey instruments and scroll down and find instrument ID. And then if I know what the ID is, which I probably do, I can adjust my criteria here, and I'm going to say all of the survey instruments that match. I could do an exact match, of course, but I'll just do F118. Oops. Of course, if I could type, I'd be doing okay. So here's F118. So there were 10 surveys that were found that used instrument F118. And of course, I go back to my date time range and specify a range of time. I can add more criteria. Now, maybe I want to find all of the surveys using that instrument that were done in a particular room. So if I come down to survey maps, I can click on the map name and it immediately adjusts my screen here to show me all of the different surveys and the maps that were used. And if I scroll down here, I can, like that fan room. Okay, I know that the fan room is a problem where, the dose rates are high enough in that fan room that survey meter might have caused a problem because of its calibration. So I can say starts with and just type in fan. So I don't even have to worry about the capitalization here. So it found 56 surveys where the fan room was one of the maps. And in fact, if you look on this second one here, you notice there's 2 rows here. There's probably 2 maps in that survey. So in fan room was one of those 2 maps. So it's showing you where all the surveys that had used that fan room map and that instrument. So that's part of the power here of our search tool. And then lastly, on the search, you can search for text in any of those text fields. So let's see, I put the word training in here, and let's see, it searched everything that's in the database, all the text fields in the database, and found the word training used in 31 different surveys, and they all appeared, it always appeared in the title. But this will search all the comment fields and any of those little comments that are in any of those radiological symbols for the word or phrase that you type, and then you'll be able to find what you're interested in. So that is the search tool. Okay, any other questions on what you've seen so far?
No, sir.
Okay. If you have a couple more minutes, what I'd like to do is just kind of run quickly through this web viewer here, if I can get this thing up. Okay, so I talked about the web viewer several times, and we have 2 of them. One is what we call the tree web viewer, which I'm going to flip through this. I could send these PowerPoints too, I'll do that. The tree web viewer is primarily used by the technicians. So they can easily find an approved survey and display it so they can do approved job briefing. And the way the tree web viewer works is it creates that little tree of all the maps. If you recall, when we were in the survey and I pulled up, I wanted to add a map, right? And I pulled up that little dialog and had the tree for the locations, and I drilled down to find the map I want. So that same tree is right here. So technicians going to be briefing for a particular room, they just need to go down and find the map for that room, which they can use the tree.
Can that be done with the iPad?
Yes, because yes, you would use the sure, you can use it on the iPad. Yep, right through the web browser and the iPad, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Good question there. So here I drilled down to the Aux Building 100, and here's all the maps in the Aux Building 100. And if I click this any of the buttons in this preview image column, it'll show me a little thumbnail, so I can verify that that's the one I want. Then I click the List Surveys button for that map, and it will then list the surveys that are approved, most recent ones at the top. And there's also a little filtering that the technician can do if he wants to filter on, here's an example here, filter on a date range or an RWP number, for example, or words in the title, or a particular survey type like a routine or a weekly or a job coverage, that sort of thing. So then it'll filter the list to give him a list to select from. And then on that list, there's a couple of buttons over here on the right. And when they clicks that button, it will then display the PDF of this survey either right in the same page, and he can just scroll down, or it would open up usually another tab in the browser. Most of the browsers seem to do that nowadays when you open up in a new tab in your browser. So the whole PDF would open up in a new tab in the browser. You just flip back to this screen to, open up additional surveys if you want to review them, and then they can just scroll down through the survey to use it during their briefing. So that's the tree web viewer. Now the other web viewer we have is what we call the drill down web viewer, and that is really more self-service. So that's intended for the average worker to be able to go find a room or area where they're going to be going to do the work, and then view the most recent survey for that area, approved survey, that was marked ready for, published to the web viewer. So each one of these drill down web viewers is customized for each customer because every plant is different. So this one happens to be the Turkey Point nuclear plant in South Florida. So here's the 2 reactors, and this is the sort of auxiliary building, which really isn't a building much. There's really not much around it. Here's the turbine generator assemblies here, you can see. So they have this running on large touchscreen monitors scattered around the plant, and you can use it on your desktop or you can use it right on your iPad. And the way this works is, on this particular one, the user just clicks where it says building, and it then takes them to the next page, which is a diagram of the site. And here they can pick the building that they're interested in. So I'm going to pick the Unit 3 reactor containment building. And I click on this, and it then takes me to the next page, which for these folks, this is the way they designed it, was a little cutaway diagram of the reactor containment building showing the steam generators and the reactor. And then what they did was they have a collection of buttons here, each labeled with a different location. And usually the worker would say, well, I have to go work on the 14-foot elevation outside the bio wall. So when they come here, they can see, well, okay, 14-foot outside bio wall, and they just click this button. And what would happen is the application will go find the most recent approved survey that was marked, published to web viewer for the 14-foot outside the bio wall, and it will display that PDF for them. So the next time a survey is done for the 14-foot outside the bio wall and is completed, is marked, published to the web viewer, and is approved, it will automatically be available the very next time a person clicks this button. So the application is always finding the most recent one. They can't go back and look at any older ones. They're always looking at the most recent conditions. If you want to look at older ones, you got to go use the other tree web viewer. Now here's just another page that they laid out a little bit differently, where they have the side elevation of that auxiliary building area, and they have buttons on different elevations. So somebody might know that, well, I have to go work on the 18-foot elevation of the aux building in the charging pump room. So they go to the 18-foot elevation, and there's a charging pump room button. They click on it, and that's what they get. They get the PDF of the room that was, and there they are. So they can review that information. It's the most recent available for them to see. Okay, so that is kind of a good overview of the web viewer. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you? I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to cover today.
No, I think you did a good job on that.
Okay,
I probably need some more specifics on what we would need for a site install, and what that would, and what we'd probably have to have our procurement officer get a hold of you on that as far as some costs. But,
yeah.
I guess the biggest thing is about the instruments. Do you think that our Sentinel system would be a good place to start on that?
Yes, definitely. We have a lot of customers using Sentinel, and we've got a lot of experience creating the view into the Sentinel instrument database, so it's very easy for us. That's only going to take maybe an hour or something to set up that view into the Sentinel database for the instruments. It's very easy to do. That will be easier. To tell you the truth, that will be easier than linking to your Access database. So.
Well, no, I want to get away from the Access database.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
So what, I guess it seems kind of obvious, but if we went to the VSDS, I guess it would be a clean break after some period of overlap.
That's usually what the customers do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then have the legacy system being just that, for searching for the legacy data.
Yeah. Now your legacy system is that a commercially available system that has maps and everything in it, or?
No, it was all homegrown.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, we have imported data from other legacy systems into VSDS. I mean, we'd be willing to take a look at that if you're interested. Because does it use maps or no? Did I ask that question?
It does have some.
It does, but it's it's a little bit clunkier.
It's weak.
A little different. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could certainly keep that as a legacy system to go back and look at the data when you need to. And we have a number of customers that do that, of course. But if you are interested in exploring the option, we'd be happy to take a look at it, no charge, to see if it's possible, and maybe what it would take to do something like that, to pull it in, because there are a couple different options. I mean, we could even put the surveys in as itemized surveys and attach the maps as those attachments that you saw me talk about, for example. And there's a couple different ways to do it. May or may not be useful for you, but we'd be happy to look at it. It doesn't have to be done now. We could do that later if you wanted to, move forward with VSDS now and then think about that and see what you think. And if something you'd like to entertain later, we can always do that too. That's not a problem.
Paul, you got any questions?
No, good.
What I'll do, Russ, is I'll send you these PowerPoints. We'll make the recording available to you so you can see a little bit bigger screen. And I've also got a couple of other documents that I'll send you because you asked a question about, doing an install at the site and such. I have a couple of documents that describe the information the IT would find useful for installation. Yeah, that'll be helpful for them. But it's not a major undertaking. It shouldn't be terribly complex for them to do. A lot simpler than Sentinel, I tell you that. So.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We didn't have any trouble with Sentinel.
No, that's good. We have the South Texas project down in South Texas, the nuclear facility down there.
Now, mind you, we're a very small facility.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, they purchased Sentinel and then they bought VSDS and GADS all sort of at the same time, and they've been working on a Sentinel installation and implementation for about 6 months now.
Wow.
So, and there's still another month to go before they get that all wrapped up. So,
Well, they probably use more of the modules than we do too.
yeah, they probably did. Yeah.
We don't have that big an application, you know.
We could help your IT folks. We could work with them. We could probably have VSDS installed and up and running in a day or two.
Yeah, the computer folks would we have a real good one. He's by himself now. The other guy quit on him. So
Okay. Yeah.
you know, the usual stuff there.
Understood. Yeah. Well, we'll help them, and it shouldn't be too difficult. So.
Russ, what's your timing on the purchase?
I talked with our business manager, and he said that right now we're on a 2-month extension. So we're not going to do anything on the 2-month extension. But in January, we have to put in a full a 1-year extension. That's where we're going to put this. So we'll put in the request for the money on that 1-year extension.
Does that mean you'll make the purchase in January, or would it be later?
No, it would be approved, I think, by March or April.
I got you.
Okay.
So that's the real data right there.
All right. Good.
All right, great.
So you're saying if we can handle Sentinel, we can handle this one, huh?
Oh yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Okay. Yeah. ORNL wasn't able to do Sentinel.
No.
No, they're still doing it. They're still doing some homegrown thing that they have.
Yeah, I know. I don't think you'll have any trouble. You won't have any trouble with this. We'll help you through it. So we've done this countless times.
We had some oddball stuff that the Sentinel guys had to work through. I'll give them that.
Did you? Yeah.
Well, like our TLDs don't have barcodes on them.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that drove them crazy right
We
there.
don't have all the sales.
I imagine that would. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
they had to write some little loop to go back and look at a table where the number was and all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I don't think you'll have any problem with our software.
So we're talking about we're a staff of 19 technician slots right now. We have a few empty, and 2 engineers and 4 supervisors. So that's how big we are.
Okay.
But we are probably, after that 1-year extension, going to be sucked up into the big Oak Ridge contract, as you call it.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a selling point with our DOE customer as well.
Gotcha.
So, and this also is our largest vulnerability,
Sure.
as far as our group goes.
Yeah.
Because the guy that built this thing went over to ORNL, and it's one of those, it's his baby, and it still runs though. But
Oh, I know.
one of these days, the baby's going to trip down the stairs, and that's going to be it.
You're not alone in that regard. I mean, we've encountered that a few times with customers over the years. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Well,
In
thank you so much, and I apologize for
welcome.
the IT challenges, but that's a good primer for where we are, I guess.
Good. No, we'll help them. There won't be any problem. Guaranteed. So.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you for your time and for hanging in there with that little iPhone 8 there, but we'll get this stuff over to you, and that'll be a little bit better.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
So Russ, do you need anything from us from a pricing perspective to be able to budget?
You gave me an idea, and I was looking at. I told my guys somewhere around 180,000.
Okay. That'll be more than enough to cover it.
Yeah, I might go ahead and put some of those iPads on there and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
I'm still kind of on the fence on that, but if they don't, if they're just going to give us the money, I'll take it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Good.
I mean, Biden's giving money to everybody, so shit, we might as well just go ahead and hold the bucket out and he'll give it to us too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hold it out there.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right, thank you. We'll be in touch.
Bye.
I know.
Bye.